That's Zomba. Welcome to the third lesson of physics. We'll be looking at motion and forces and the underlying concepts related to motion and forces. Okay, so what exactly is motion? I'm sure we all get a general sense of what motion is. Like motion is movement. Generally, in general terms, motion is movement. So we'll be looking at the concepts that are related to movement, and we'll be looking at the underlying causes of that motion. So motion is the change of position or orientation of a body with time. Okay, so you look at based on a certain particular interval of time, how much has a body moved compared to its initial position. Okay, so we'll be looking at basically two types of motion. So motion can be divided into two distinct phases, which are linear motion and rotational motion. So linear motion, as the word says, is motion in a straight line, and rotational motion is motion that follows a certain path. So most systems, in most physical systems in physics, are governed by a little bit of both linear motion and rotational motion. So it's hard for you to find a physical system that is purely either linear or rotational motion. Okay, so what exactly is motion and what causes motion? So motion can result due to a number of things, but then the most prominent cause of motion is the application of a force. So forces are responsible for all motion. So in order for you to get a body or an object to start to move, or to get a body in motion, you have to apply a certain force to it, and this force will result in it changing its initial phase. So if it was constant, it's going to start to move. If it was moving, it's going to stop. So a force is a push or a pull that when uninteracted will result in a change in motion of an object. So if a force is applied without any disturbances on a body, the body will either start to move or will either change direction or any of those. So the change in motion can be change in velocity, acceleration, momentum, and direction. We'll look at all these concepts as we go along this course. So motion is divided into two phases, vectors and scalars. In fact, all physical quantities are divided into vectors and scalars. So the study of physics is divided into two parts, which are the study of vectors and the study of scalars. So a vector is a directional motion, what pertaining to motion. A vector is motion in a certain direction. Then the study of vector motion deals with directional motion. Vectors include displacement, velocity, and acceleration. So all those quantities are assigned a certain direction. Then scalars deal with magnitudes or quantity, or quantifies measurement without specifying direction. So the difference between a vector and a scalar is the fact that a vector is directional, whereas a scalar just quantifies a certain quantity. Okay, so the first example of a vector that we're going to look at is displacement, right? Displacement in English can have a number of definitions, but pertaining to physics, displacement refers to relative motion or relative directional position of a body relative to a fixed reference point. So the second vector that we are going to look at is velocity. So velocity is the most directly related to motion physical quantity or that we'll look at. So velocity is the speed of a body in a certain direction, right? So velocity, it quantifies speed, but then it assigns a direction to speed. So it is the rate of change in displacement. If we can define it simply, velocity is the rate of change in displacement. Velocity can also be a result of change in direction. Acceleration generally refers to the rate at which an object in motion changes its speed in a certain direction. So acceleration is the rate of change in the velocity of a body. So if a body which was initially moving in a certain direction at a certain rate or at a certain speed begins to change the rate at which its speed is changing, then that's acceleration. So in our discussion of velocity, acceleration, displacement, we've mentioned the term speed a number of times. So what exactly is speed? Speed, simply said, is a scalar quantity that refers to how far an object is moving relative to a reference. So